Hey, what's up, YouTube? So, with the Black Ops beta weekend over, I just wanted to share some initial thoughts on how I felt about the Omnimovement mechanics specifically. You know, there's a lot of thoughts that I've had around how it can be improved and what they're doing well even, but there are a few things that I think that need to be changed before moving forward with the release of this game completely. So stick around for the whole video. I'm going to break down all the different things that I thought and how I feel about it in general. Before we begin, I just wanted to say a lot of time and effort goes into these videos. I don't have a thumbnail editor. I don't have a video editor. I do all this stuff by myself. So hitting that like button and subscribing really goes a long way to help my channel. Now, initially, I know a lot of people are comparing this to like a Cold War situation. A lot of people feel that it's very similar to Cold War, and it's just like a Cold War Part 2. I'm gonna be really honest, I don't feel like that completely. I think it's very derivative of Cold War, and I think a lot of the good elements of Cold War were brought into this game. But I don't think it's a complete ripoff or a clone, and I don't think they just copy-pasted it. I think there was some genuine attempts at innovation. I think they're kind of moving in the right direction here. It's a good leap that we've seen in a Call of Duty. I've bought the last 4 or 5 since Modern Warfare 2019. Honestly, almost every year I've been pretty disappointed, but this is the first time that I can see myself getting kind of excited about multiplayer. I'm more of a Warzone player myself. That's what I play most of the time, and I really only use multiplayer to level up my guns or grind camos and things like that, and really just play it in the initial few weeks. This year I'm kind of excited to play it a little bit more and delve more into the multiplayer world. So I don't think that it's a rip-off of Cold War completely. I think that there's a lot going for it that's unique, and there's some good movement mechanics that they're adding. Now, specifically with Omnimovement, my initial thought when I saw this is going to be a Sweatlord's heaven, because running in any direction, sprinting, jumping in unnatural ways, I think it could be a recipe for disaster. Now, it's really early to tell whether that's gonna be the case, especially for those Warzone players who might want like a slowed down version. Now, I don't know if it's gonna fully be this like Apex Legends or one of those really high octane Adderall fueled games, and I just don't think it's gonna be like that completely. Now, a few things that I think could be improved upon pretty drastically specifically relate to sliding. I think the sprinting speed in all the directions, like when you're sprinting left to right or when you're sprinting forward and backwards, I think the timing on those is really good. Like when you sprint forward, you go forward at a decent pace, and when you sprint backwards, you're not going backwards at that same pace. And same with side to side. The side to side movement is a little bit more slowed down than the forward sprint, which was my initial concern, because I thought, okay, well, if you can run backwards and side to side in the same speed that you go forward, that's where it's going to become a little too sweaty, I think. And a lot of people will really abuse that mechanic and make the game way too fast-paced, and take out a lot of the strategy in the game too. I think they handled it well. Now, when you move right and left, you got a slower pace. You can move backwards. You can slide backwards and in any direction you want, and the pacing of that feels really good. Now, where I think that the biggest opportunity is that the slide distance is really exaggerated. So if you slide forward, or if you dive to the right, or if you dive to the left, or even slide in any of those directions, I found more often than not I was overshooting how far the slide could go. So it just felt like, I would tap the slide to the right, and my character would go flying like 6 feet to the right or 6 feet to the left. And I just don't think that the slide needs to be so accentuated, Like, I think that limiting how far you slide in each direction could really go a long way to, slow down the game without making it a slow-paced game. Now, Cold War was a really clunky, slow-paced game in my opinion. I think the movement was really, really awful in that game. And I think it really dampened the spirits of a lot of people playing the game, because they wanted to play something that, felt a little bit more like Modern Warfare 2019 and, how the sliding and the movement felt in that game. But Cold War felt like a step backwards. Now, the other thing that has really impacted a lot of controller players, and it's something that the mouse and keyboard community has been asking for a very long time, is the nerfing of aim assist. And as a controller player, I completely agree that aim assist needs to be nerfed, and it needs to be toned down a notch. But this year what they've done is they've kind of eliminated the aim assist completely in the close ranges. So if somebody is within like 2 feet of me, and it's that little head-to-head gunfight, my aim assist is completely gone. And personally, I don't think that that is the best solution to this problem. So essentially now the mouse and keyboard community has an advantage in those close range gunfights. So within a few months, you're going to see, you know, the Reddit forums and the Twitter threads just beaming with controller players who now believe that mouse and keyboard has this crazy advantage. And it's true, you know, in those close range fights, using a mouse movement like this is going to be way more precise than using just your thumbstick, right? I think that there's this like middle ground that they need to find with that close range aim assist specifically. And I think it'll level the playing field for both mouse and keyboard and controller players. Otherwise, you're just gonna have the same thing we have right now, right? If you look at any of the Reddit forums or any of the Twitter threads, it's all just mouse and keyboard players complaining about how strong aim assist is. And then, you know, if you eliminate it completely in that close range, now you're just gonna get a whole nother group of controller players who are complaining about how strong mouse and keyboard is in those close ranges. So that's why I think it needs to be this little you know, this balancing act. They need to nerf the aim assist for close range, but not eliminate it completely. And that applies especially to this game where, you know, the movement is so quick and you're sliding in so many directions. Without that aim assist to, you know, help those controller players who only have that thumb to really move around with, it's gonna cause a huge drop in players, I think, for, you know, people who only know how to play controller. And they can't compete in those close ranges, especially those small maps. You know, when they bring in Nuketown and, you know, if they bring in Shipment and any of those small maps, it's going to be really hard for controller players to keep up in those maps where, you know, a lot of those fights are going to be close range. And then moving into Warzone, if they integrate that into Warzone, it's going to cause a lot of players to just not feel confident in those close range gunfights. And people are going to, you know, naturally slow down the game on their own because they're going to play a lot more reserved, they're going to play a lot more campy, they're going to play a lot more far back. And it's going to take a lot of those close range engagements out of the picture completely. So moving on to things that I think the game is doing really well, I think the game is doing a really good job of managing the TTK. And this is something that a lot of people have complained about over the last few years. Some games had really long time to kills, and some games had really short ones, right? So it was really hard to kind of engage or disengage after a bad fight. But this game feels really consistent and really snappy, and I think because of the Omni movement, it's you know, given a lot of room to kind of move around and navigate while keeping that TTK at a reasonable rate that it doesn't feel too long or too short. So another thing that I think the game is doing really well is the game is penalizing you for all that movement. Something we've seen in previous CODs is that, you know, when you jump or bunny hop or when you're going into a drop shot, your movement is not penalized for that and your aim just stays steady the entire time. But in this game, if you do a dive to the right or a dive to the left, your whole gun, your camera is going to shake. And it really causes a lot of instability and makes you really calculate whether you want to make that movement or not, whether it's worth it to make that movement or if it makes more sense to just do a normal slide or a peek over the corner. So that's something that Treyarch has done really well, and they've really managed how much gun wobble there is going to be when you do a dive to the right, because if you're jumping over a corner and you have that peeker's advantage, now you're being penalized by a crazy amount of gun shake. So you kind of have that split second you gained by doing the dive, you're now penalized for it because you have to now readjust your aim and lock onto that target again. So yeah, I don't think the Omni movement is completely broken, and I don't think it's going to ruin the game completely. I think it's a good step in the right direction, and it still needs some work. I think the slide distances, like I mentioned, they can be fixed. I think, you know, some of the issues with like the movement, you know, they can be adjusted a little bit. You know, servers could use a little bit of help, but it is just a beta, so I don't know if they're gonna, you know, upgrade that fully yet. Apart from that, I think the Omni movement is a step in the right direction, and I think that you know, if you're giving the game a fair shot, and if you're not just relying on the opinions of, you know, a few Redditors or, you know, people you've seen on Twitter complaining about it, I think that, you know, the game could be a lot of fun and it could have a lot of potential. And I think it, you know, for casual gamers, like I'm not a super sweaty gamer myself, you know, especially within the multiplayer realm, like it's something that, you know, I don't have a lot of practice with, and I don't play very competitively at all. Like it's more just to like level up and grind weapons and stuff. I think for those small subset of players, it's going to feel challenging, but also not feel too challenging that, you know, you feel like you need to learn all these new mechanics. I think even if you don't take advantage of Omni movement, you still have a good chance of competing in this game, and you won't feel limited because, you know, maybe your controller doesn't have paddles, or maybe your you know, stick has a little bit of drift. I don't think you're going to feel limited at all, and I think it could overall be a great experience. Well, anyways, that's all I have for today. I really hope you enjoyed the video, and once again, if you could leave a like on that video and subscribe, it would really mean a lot and helps my channel grow. I hope to see you in the next one, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.